help us set the scene. The Nets are 39-19, 20 games above 500, haven't been healthy the entire year. You just heard what happened to Durant on Sunday, the latest with Harden. Your quick thoughts, and we'll get to Woj here on what the prognosis is, especially for the Beard.
Well, the biggest question for the Nets is whether or not they were all going to be healthy. Like, that's the thing that you just don't know whether or not you can trust with this team. But if you have the big three, no doubt they have to be the favorite coming out of the Eastern Conference to get to the NBA Finals. There's no question about it. Now, I've said all season long as they've got two of the big three in the first two rounds of the postseason, it's not really going to matter. It doesn't matter who they face in the first round. It's not going to matter who they play in the second round, even if it ends up being the Milwaukee Bucks. If they have Kyrie Irving and they have Kevin Durant, or if they have Kyrie Irving and they have James Harden, that will be enough for them to be able to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. This team has progressively gotten better throughout the course of the season. Steve Nash has done a great job of being able to manage the lineup with those guys being in and out. And the great thing about what's happened to it, if you could find a silver lining to all of the injuries, is that it's allowed them to get some guys some minutes, guys that they're going to need, guys that they're going to have to trust once we get to the postseason.
That's a great point. Good coaching chops for Steve Nash as well, learning to deal with a little bit of adversity. You know that's going to be there when the competition ratchets up in the playoffs. Woj, as promised, is here. Adrian, right off the top, what can you tell us here about the latest ailment to James Harden?
Yeah, he got back on the court yesterday, Zubin, and tried out that hamstring that's caused him to be out, for a few weeks, and re-aggravated it. And so got an MRI, and the Nets are now going to hold him out, probably right up until the playoffs, I'm told. Now, whether that's he's ready to come back with a couple games left in the regular season or a few games left, or he isn't able to return until into playoffs, they're not going to know until we get closer. But a real setback, because the Nets thought they were getting to a point where they might have their big three back here in the very near future. Durant with that thigh bruise, and then Harden coming off of the hamstring. And now, it was back to just Kyrie Irving on the court last night against the Pels.
Well, let me ask you this, because I have my own theory. What are teams around the league saying in regards to the health and the approach that the Brooklyn Nets are taking with their big three right now?
Well, I think most teams look at what Brooklyn's doing, and whether they're contenders or whether they're teams further down the standings, and understand why they're handling their players this way, would all do exactly the same. That's just when you have players the caliber of Kevin Durant, James Harden, you just want them healthy for the postseason, especially what Durant has come off of last year. But I think the teams who are going to compete with Brooklyn, and there's just a few of them in both conferences, but teams typically focus on just trying to get through their conference. The West isn't so concerned about the East right now, but the teams in the East who are going to compete with the Nets, listen, their hope is that, they all know there's a talent gap there. They know when healthy, the Nets are the best team. But they hope that, kind of the chemistry that those teams have built together, the continuity, the knowledge of who's going to take big shots in big moments because they've been through that. And then the defensive consistency. I know we always talk about it with the ball and the offensive end, but this is a Nets team that has not been great defensively, better late in the season than they were early. But you're going to get into those situations in the postseason where you're going to have to get stops, and you don't have a group on the court that has done that together either. I think the hope is for really just a couple of the teams in the East. I think Chris was exactly right. The first round, maybe even the second round, may not be such a challenge, although it could be based on seeding in the East. You're going to have to play really well against a really good team to get out of the East, probably two really good teams. And it is really, we don't have a blueprint in history of a team that literally just showed up with its best players in the postseason. And listen, I don't know that we can just assume they're going to be healthy all the time in the playoffs. They haven't been in the regular season. James Harden's been an extremely durable player in his career, but a hamstring injury like this, and it's why they've shut him down again, it lingers. And that's certainly a concern for Brooklyn.